Hi, I'm Alan Leibowitz. I'm the editor of Forklift Action News, the global newsletter for materials handling, produced in Brisbane and distributed around the world. This panel session today looks at the future of materials handling. The topic officially is materials handling old and new, but obviously the focus is going to be much more on new. We have a very experienced and knowledgeable panel to help us through the session. That will consist of Lit Fung from Geek Plus, George Pappas from Linda Materials Handling, and David Ruby from Dematic, and we'll get to meet them in a second. But before we do, just to set the scene, materials handling is changing, especially in the warehouse. We're seeing dramatic transformations all around the world. And the biggest one, I guess, is the move from pallets to individual items. It's not just about shifting huge volumes of material now. We're talking about warehouses having to deal with individual items coming in and going out. The other factors that I think are contributing to the change are labor shortages. In many markets, we just don't have the people to do things anymore, and there's a push towards automation. We're also seeing increasing land values. So big limbering warehouses are a thing of the past, and we're seeing a move towards narrower aisles and much higher racking. And at the moment, obviously, COVID-19, which is having dual impacts. On the one side, really fueling what we're seeing in e-commerce, but at the same time, raising the issues of social distancing and therefore wanting to limit the number of people in individual workspaces. So materials handling is changing, and anybody out there who has a warehouse is obviously thinking now about what the future is going to look like, whether they continue with their current structures, infrastructure and equipment, or whether they move to something sort of more in keeping with the needs that they're facing and will face in the future. So to set the scene, we'll hear from our panelists about what is currently available, how these pieces fit together, and what you should be thinking about as you plan your future. And to kick it off, let's hear from George Pappas. George, Linda Material Handling, obviously one of the older forklift companies, and we're all familiar with the machines that push pallets around. But the world has changed for Linda. Can you run us through what your portfolio consists of and where it's moving?
Yeah, certainly. Firstly, thanks for the opportunity. I think it's a very exciting time to be involved in the material handling industry. Innovation has never been as significant a part of our day-to-day life as what it is at the moment. And although the word is probably overused at times, true innovation is actually permeating the entire industry for us at the moment. If I were to frame our own product portfolio in three different groups, the first and the most traditional, as you point out, is really the forklift truck, the order picker, the counterbalance truck, the standard warehouse truck. This market in itself is growing and growing significantly globally. In Australia alone, it's a 20,000 odd unit market, and we are seeing very, very strong demand in that sector of the market. I'd frame the second group of products as the advanced technologies, which are based still on conventional products. What I'm talking about there is material handling equipment that is still manually operated, but includes very high lift heights, technology like lithium-ion, technology like fast charge, but of course, technology like dynamic mass control and other technologies which assist in the improvement of not just safety, but also productivity. But then we've got, of course, the automated equipment, which is the AGV equipment. Within Keon, we've got a couple of different divisions that provide and offer AGVs. Within the Linda Material Handling space, we have AGVs that are based on traditional forklift trucks that are automated. And the advantages that you've got there are that you've got a machine that can be used manually, but much more importantly, you've got a machine that has been mass produced. Very reliable, very cheap to operate. And when you add an automation package, it allows for a lot of the complexity of a bespoke manufactured AGV to be removed from the equation. So again, very exciting, a lot of change, and interested in hearing what the other panelists have got to say.
Right. And George, you have a video that demonstrates some of those technologies?
We do. We have a video that actually demonstrates one of our more interesting AGVs, which is the traditional reach truck that has been automated with SLAM technology, which is the natural navigation technology, simultaneous location and mapping. It is a hybrid truck that can be used manually and in an automated sense. Of course, as I mentioned, it is a mass-produced reach truck. And you'll see that it can also operate in amongst other machines. So it can operate in an environment where other machines are operating. And although we certainly don't recommend that they operate in pedestrian-rich environments, they certainly can operate independently, but also in those hybrid environments with manually operated machines. I'll be interested to hear what your thoughts are.
In this distribution centre, 6 Armatic R16 HD automated reach trucks are working in a 3-shift operation to cover the inbound flow. Their task is to pick up pallets from the conveyors and to store them away into the input side of the gravity racks in the aisles of the warehouse. The maximum height to store at is up to 7.5 meters. The maximum travel speed allowed is 2 meters per second. Each AGV can localize itself anywhere in the warehouse via SLAM navigation, which stands for Simultaneous Localization and Mapping. The AGV is equipped with self-learning capabilities to create a map and simultaneously estimate its position in it. The truck's eye is the navigation laser. It continuously scans the scenery and compares the results in real time with the internal map. Here, on location, we must guarantee an extra high security standard for full 360-degree safety. Therefore, multiple laser systems evaluate the ground floor safety around the truck. 2 3D cameras mounted to the mast verify empty spaces in the racking or the opening of the pallet to ensure precise picking and dropping of the load. Currently, the preciseness of the 3D camera detection is unique in the market. When the Armatic is storing goods, we use a short-distance telematic sensor to ensure safe handling of the pallets. If needed, all Armatic AGVs can be used in dual mode. They can be operated manually like any common reach truck. At the moment, this is a one-way delivery task. But in the next project step, we're going to implement the outbound picking as well.
Yeah, okay, so moving from those traditional environments and the advanced versions thereof, let's introduce our next panelist, David Ruby. David, I had the privilege of visiting one of the Dematic sites in Germany where there was this amazing array of materials handling activity going on and not a person to be seen. So can you run us through some of the Dematic solutions and how they fit into the equation?
Yeah, thanks, Alan, and I appreciate the opportunity to be a panelist here today. Dematic's really at the forefront of where technology is changing and growing, and if we look at the logistics space in the last 20 years that I've been playing in it, and the pace of change is quite incredible. So, and we talk about the speed of technologies, the size, everything getting smaller, our flexibility, and the applications that are available that it's being applied to. And what's driving a lot of that is look at the digital enablement and control systems and really the intelligence of the software. across that's driving a lot of change in that. So, the space that Dematic plays in is right across the broad spectrum of automated material handling, and that's from receiving all the way through to shipping. And that can often be made up of, small parts, good to person picking systems, all the way through to full case automation, picking automation using robotics. We have AGVs that are moving around pallets and other unit loads, from automated storage and retrieval systems for pallets and also pallet handling. And then through to real-time technologies like voice and RF that enable, smaller bespoke manual picking systems and upgrade improvements across that. And across that sort of space, what enables that is a strong suite of software solutions. They can be all the way from a smaller standalone picking system to end-to-end, warehouse management solution. And that's what we're taking to market. And I think we've got some great examples of that. You'll see some of that in this in a video coming up, where a client of ours has moved across from what was quite a manual system into a fully automated warehousing and distribution system. So we can play that video now.
Beverages produces and distributes alcohol and non-alcohol products in Australia and New Zealand. In Australia, we have DCs in most of our major cities. This DC is a premier DC in Queensland, but within Australia as well. If you like sheds and trucks, which I do, this site is really, really awesome.
So what we were looking for in consolidating our sites was to unlock some benefits, such as reducing the cost and being better able to service our customers. The journey of a pallet commences at one of our 2 production sites here in Queensland. When they arrive on site, the driver backs onto our skate dock and then triggers the automated device to align the trailer and commence the unloading process. Chain conveyors then carry the pallets onto our main conveyor loop in our warehouse. The pallets then go through an automated profile check where they're validated against the specification requirements of the ASRS system. The conveyor loop delivers the pallet to the drop station, where the ASRS system takes over. The crane lifts and drives the pallet to the assigned put-away location, and then a supercap cart takes over and it drives that pallet out into the satellite and stores the pallet. So the main benefits of the Dematic system is the storage density and the reduced footprint that occupies, and allows us to consolidate all of our operations into a single site.
So when we think about the amount of touches that go on within a warehouse process, each touch is a cost to their business. So having that process automated and using manual labour where it most makes sense is a really great way of actually running a logistics enterprise.
Most of our pallets won't be touched by a human until they get to our customer DC. Come on, that's the catchphrase.
Thanks for that, David. The world of robots used to be science fiction, but these days it's very much reality. And our next speaker is joining us from Hong Kong, from Geek Plus Lit Fun. Can you tell us how robots fit into materials handling and specifically into the warehouse?
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Geek Plus is specialized in smart logistics, and we provide very comprehensive product line in terms of the robot type of the robot and solution. And we deploy more than 10,000 AMRs worldwide so far, and we keep helping business realize the smart logistics and transformation by our different system, like a picking system, moving system, and sorting system. So we should tailor and integrate it to like e-commerce, retail, apparel, 3PL, any type of industry. Yeah.
And you have a video that demonstrates that as well.
Yeah.
So that's what the future looks like. But most of you in the audience are looking at your traditional warehouse, your old-fashioned racks, your forklifts and order pickers, and wondering how you're going to get from where you are to what we've shown. George, let's pick up with your view. So you've got a client who's got traditional forklifts, traditional systems, and they're interested in embracing these new technologies. Where do they start?
Yeah, there is no simple or single answer. It depends entirely on what the primary objectives are. If you have a client that's looking to, for example, increase their ability to hold equipment, you have a very different solution to a client who's looking to reduce cost or increase their throughput. In a highly variable environment, you've got a whole lot of different challenges, obviously being faced by customers where different loads, whether they be on pallets or whether they be individual items, need to be handled. One of the best examples of a step towards automation, or even a step towards semi-automation, is what we have with customers who are using very narrow aisle, which are colloquially known as turret trucks. You've got a quite dense environment of either pallets or storage. And that can quite easily, with our equipment, be automated with a fully automated turret truck that requires no human interaction, and that can be run through an interface via the WMS. And this is an excellent example of the bridge between manual handling, automation, and then what we might describe as a full storage and retrieval or automated storage and retrieval system using cranes, which is the ultimate.
Right. Let's, if you look at your offering, do robots just get deployed into existing warehouses? Is that the easiest path, or are we talking about chucking everything out and replacing it with robots?
So we are proud to tell everyone here that we already deployed 50 projects successfully in Australia with already AMR solution. So which is the goods-to-person solution in order fulfillment sector. And normally, well, we can do like reducing the labor by 50 to 70% within 2 years ROI. I think this is quite important for the customer right now. Everyone is looking for the very quick ROI before they deploy the automation system. As it empowered our AI algorithm to realize multiple functions such as the order optimization, product analysis, and all the like a shelf recommendation, something like that. It's all kind of the AI algorithm to help the customer. Okay, which is also lead to achieve a very flexible, scalable, can be deployed within three months AMR automation system.
Okay. David, do your systems coexist with traditional materials handling? So can we just get a couple of automated racks, or how would it work?
Yeah, that's a good question, Alan. And I think and really when we look at a market like Australia, given its size and some of our intricacies, while everyone may want to head to the ultimate in terms of full automation, there's a number of options and initiatives that can lead you on a pathway to that. And I often term them as islands of automation. So where we look for smaller subsets of a warehouse process and apply automation to that. And that could be, and you would have seen in the example of the video we showed, that there was a number of manual processes around the automation, and we want that because we want to get the most out of we want to use labor, but we want to use it effectively, and it's a combination of those two. So it could be, another example could be automated layer picking. So we apply automation to that, and then extend that and complement that with cost-effective or flexible manual processes like full case picking with voice picking technology. And as the as the business grows, it also puts in a platform that the business can grow and scale with it. And that's important because, we want to get quicker returns and start with smaller capital outlay as we grow and actually prepare the business for larger adoption of automation within it.
So just to pick up on one point there, you talked about islands of automation, which implies that the rest of the plant is still, I guess, functioning on the old school system. But there has to be some level of integration, even be it at warehouse management software level, to make it all work together. You can't just have, the super efficient sort of node in the middle of an operation and then all of this traditional stuff around it.
Correct. And that's why I spoke earlier about if we look at the, across the top of that is the software suite. So that's what's driving the intelligence. That's what's driving the optimization. So that's enabling, the different components of the warehouse to integrate and in a timely and optimized fashion, deliver the business results that we're looking for. So that's a critical piece, that we have an architecture with a software overlay that's coordinating that and optimizing that, but it can still have a combination of automated subsystems and some manual subsystems that collectively deliver the results.
Right. George, in your experience, how do these automated systems and the manual systems work together, and what do end users need to do to get some benefit out of the technologies and the traditional grunt of the old equipment?
Most systems will have an element of each, and dependent upon, again, the question around variability of both the products being handled, but also the demand levels, will normally denote the level of automation versus manual handling. One of the biggest challenges we, of course, always have is where we've got a highly variable demand level. Building an automation, not so much system, but even an automated process to meet the medium to highest level of demand at any given time during the year is going to lead immediately to an overinvestment. And so these are really the challenges that need to be faced. So with the current technology in our environment, the higher the variability and the higher the demand variability, meaning product and demand variability, the more manual the process will be. So as David has just mentioned, picking out some of the base processes that are required that are absolutely standardized or repeated, and being able to automate those is not that complex a thing to do. And it does lead or lend itself to an excellent hybrid potential of using people and machines along with full automated machine solutions.
Right. So, Lyd, I imagine that there are no sites that are purely automated that you're operating in. How does your technology work with traditional forklifts and order pickers and the other material that you'll find around a warehouse?
For those businesses, they are now using a traditional facility like shelving and menu picking. I think the best way may be using like a just-to-person solution as the most direct option that can help the customer for the labor cost with saving and also increase the productivities. So automation is an important tool for the business to improve their competitiveness in the industry. To set up a warehouse with like an AMR system, which is really simple and time effective, we provide fast return of investment, as I said. And also most of the customer can get the ROI within 2 years. And then, I think it is quite important for the customer to make the decision to go for the automation system like AMR.
So ideally, you're talking about total automation, or is there some element of hybrid integration with traditional equipment?
We can recommend customer to either fully apply the total goods-to-person solution for their whole warehouse operation, or they can select some specific category of the goods to put into the goods to person solution. For example, like some high value goods or some fast moving item, they can select a type of that. And after that, they can easily to do some expansion, or they wanted to add more robot in the system, and then they can get a benefit for enjoy the more higher productivities by adding the robot.
Right. I guess with all of these options and opportunities available, planning has never been more important. So maybe, George, can you give us some insight into how an end user would go about planning a route forward from where they are to the wonderful technology that we've shown them today?
I think that's a really interesting and topical point, because if we look back on the last 12 months, what we've learned is that planning is a greater challenge than it's ever been.
Yeah.
The idea around needing to remain dynamic and agile are no longer management concepts that we consider as holy grails. We've all been required to be agile and to be responsive. And that doesn't lend itself well to the idea of a planned future, to a point. Again, I'm sure that we'll talk about the idea around greenfield, brownfield sites at a later point during the discussion, but planning is critical, but planning with too many assumptions as to either variability in demand, but also product type has already got us into some very interesting situations where we've had to set up, for want of a better description, pop-up warehouses to support the major customers that have been using automation very effectively over the years. So being able to open a small 100, 150 forklift truck site to support the load that's required, or even small sites that are more a wheel and spoke type design, where you've got the smaller warehouse, 10, 15, 20 truck warehouse closer to the end destination of where the product is going to be purchased or consumed.
Yeah.
This is very much a trend that used to be conceptual, but is happening now.
Just to pick up, George mentioned greenfield sites. So this is an operation that's being built for the first time. How significant is the opportunity in terms of automation and robotics? How much easier is it for you when you're looking at a new client that has no infrastructure and is going, okay, we want a solution?
Yeah, of course, we can do some work with the customer before the foundation or the construction. But for sure, the AMR automation system compared with the traditional automation system is quite more simple. And the benefit of the AMR, I think, is very fast or rapid deployment time. So it takes around 3 to 6 months normally from contract award to detailed design, transportation, and implementation. And we just talk for example, some on-site physical work. It's only taking around 1 month. So you can imagine how simple is it for the AMR, and there's no any infrastructure work that you need to do. Yeah, it's quite quick for some sticker of the QR code, Wi-Fi, racking, and then just adding the robot inside, and then it works. So it's quite simple. Yeah.
David, I would imagine it's very rare for a client to come to you and say, we're starting planning, we just bought the land, what are we going to do? And because a system like yours really does, to be optimized, need to be installed from the ground up, doesn't it?
It does, and I think you've George also hit the nail on the head. We look at how things have changed. So when we talk about planning now, not only for current business needs, but what might be the future. So with the high levels of automation, there needs to be consideration around, what's the footprint for the land, what's, in terms of the, what is the condition of even the soil underneath it in terms of from a total cost. So we look at not just the automation, but look at the building itself, and what might that entail, and some of those things can be changed and tweaked to meet that. But when we talk about the design of the automation and the big changes around building in flexibility, so building in the capability to scale or to modify and adjust as our market is changing, and that's something that can only come with a lot of planning and understanding early on, but understanding the customer's requirements. So understanding the business and then defining those business requirements, and then tailoring solutions against that. And often that's a process that takes many months to go through. So we're ratifying design, validating that, often using quite sophisticated tools like simulation and emulation to prove that we can cope with various changes that we might put to it. And these are the things that have really changed and progressed, particularly in more recent times.
Right. I imagine from a procurement perspective, this would be pretty challenging because the traditional approach is you have a concept, you put it out in the market, you get pricing, you choose a winner. But really, to make your system work, you have to be in right at the specification stage, to create a viable, modern, effective warehouse. You really need to be involved almost at the architectural stage, you're saying. So how does that work in the competitive market of procurement?
Well, we do, and I think in terms of there are, I guess, different phases that the traditional projects would run through, but we've also got to acknowledge the empowerment of end users today with the information that's available. So often clients have some preconceived concepts of what's applicable for their industries. And from Dematic's point of view, we approach it from an industry base. So from a vertical, so looking at solutions that are specific for target industries like food and beverage or grocery and retail or wholesale and direct distribution. So within that sort of level of specialization, there's already a suite of well-defined, proven solutions that we know are applicable and can be applied. And often that speeds up that process. So we're coming into I guess that evaluation with a base concept of what might be applicable, and then we do adaptation around that.
Right. So George, to get your perspective, I guess there's a huge difference between a client coming to you with an RFP for 15 machines and somebody coming to you looking for a solution. How do you actually work within the parameters of what your expertise is and yet sell it to a procurement environment?
There are very diverse procurement processes and approaches coming into our business, and we are discovering our way through that. Certainly, what we are seeing much more of is procurement for an outcome rather than procurement for a product. And of course, we welcome that because the outcome is really the ultimate objective of any procurement process that we normally function within. We're to a great degree a rental business, so we will rent all of our products, including the automation products. What we are renting is the throughput or the solution. So we're really still bound to the traditional procurement processes, which are, we need, as you put it, 10 or 15 machines to do this particular job, and here is the specification. But we're seeing these far more project-based procurement processes coming into the business, and we are approaching them in that way, which is we are approaching them as a project. We're not looking at them as an RFP process. We do our best to work through the solution requirements of the customer in order to even take the procurement process beyond its original framework, which is, it's not just about reducing your cost per purchase, it's about reducing your cost per movement. And we've had quite a lot of success in that area.
Right. From your perspective, are you selling units of robotics, or are you selling solutions? What are people asking you for?
Yeah, we sell solution instead of the single unit of the robot because I think it's quite important that how much benefit that the customer can get from the robot. Not only buying one or two robot can get a very great result, you know. So normally what we do is we provide like a free of charge for the consultancy service. To inspect the exactly environment and get all the data from the customer to do the analysis. And then maybe we can put it in our simulation model and then to see the how's going on of the result. And then after that, we can use this all the assumption by simulation model and have the proven record to make sure it's work or maybe it can be achieved with the customer expectation for the throughput. And also the important is to can get the labor reduction like 50%, and then of course you can calculate the ROI as well. So this is also good to get all the proven record or the proposal before the customer confirm which way or which automation that they wanted to do. Yeah.
Okay. David, I guess Lit just picked up on something that you spoke about as well, which was the need to engage with the client and understand their needs and provide them some kind of plan going forward. If you were a buyer, and obviously there were a lot of solution providers out there, is it worth going through the effort of getting each one of them to evaluate your needs and come up with a solution and then plow your way through all of that?
Yeah, I think there's a number of approaches being taken today, and industry consultants are also used for that, for that process to come in early in the process, identify and help identify business needs, and then apply that more quickly to solution development. Dematic's approach is as I said before, from an industry and consultative approach. So we come in and also identify those needs and can improve the client's, I guess, awareness of what is available. But as I said before, the information that is available, clients themselves are far more aware of the types of solutions. So they do come into that process a lot more advanced in terms of their understanding of how the technology can be applied. And then it's really around identifying the specific aspects of their business, and that's where the experienced integrators can help with that process and apply tools and measurable systems to then quantify what would be required. So that's been, I guess, a big enabler for that. And when we talk about the types of systems, these are really across the whole network. So there's a lot greater considerations than just between the four walls.
So to pick up on the role of consultants, obviously there is so much new product hitting the market. There are new solutions, there are new providers. How difficult is it for consultants to be across all of these solutions? It's all very well understanding the client's needs, but to take those to their logical conclusion, how difficult is it for consultants to have a comprehensive understanding of the market? And in your perspective, do they actually present that?
Yeah, I think it is. It's very challenging to get across all the technology, and that's changing very rapidly. So. But often we're working in partnerships with consultants and also with clients. So we're assisting with that, and we do look. One of the benefits of being a global company is we can look across the globe and see what's being applied and actually bring those latest technologies to a market like Australia, and then we can customise them to suit our particular requirements. So I think that's a big enabler. As I said before, the web and just the wealth of information that is available is also changing and assisting to accelerate that process.
George, to pick up on your perspective on this, clearly there are a number of options for end users entering the market. They can go through a consultant or ideally for you, they'll come straight to Linde Material Handling. But if you were a buyer right now, how would you be approaching the next stage of your warehouse upgrades?
Again, I wouldn't necessarily say that we would prefer them to come directly to us. Sometimes a consultant can actually create quite an excellent objective sounding board to allow for some of the noise that might come into the organisation to be filtered. Unfortunately, it's part of the human condition that confirmation bias is a concern for anybody. We think that many of our solutions are unique or are superior. I think some of that bias could bleed into some of the consultants, depending upon their experiences as well. What we look for, of course, is this objective approach. And if I were, depending on the scale of the project that I was working on or the scale of the warehouse solution that I was working on, approaching a new acquisition or development project, I'd probably consider a consultant as one of the options to engage. And I think the idea that they could provide you some benefits, some significant benefits at times, would be a legitimate thing to consider if I were approaching that type of a project.
Right. Now, clearly you have a relationship with an automation provider in Dematic, but what if you had an end user come to you and say they really want to use another automation partner? How flexible and keen are you to work with competitors?
So we're not restrictive in terms of us selling our machines to other organisations to automate themselves. Yes, we've got an automation partner in Dematic. We've also got the centralised Keon solutions, which provide automation. There's been a lot of automation by some of the other third-party providers of Linde and Keon equipment globally, and that's been the case for many years. So depending on what the customer was looking for would really be driving the methodology by which we would provide either a raw machine with no commitment to the solution or a turnkey solution with a full commitment to the performance. And that spectrum obviously would be entirely dependent upon the way that the customer was looking for the acquisition or the solution to be configured.
Okay, to wrap this up, let's look at future trends. David, what do you see?
Look, I think it's there's some key trends that are really going to influence us in the years ahead, and one of them, which is just changed rapidly, is the growth in online distribution and changes in consumer shopping behaviour. So, be that affecting our customers' business or our customers' business, that change is active within the warehouse. So that's more complex delivery, speed of delivery to meet those expectations and responsiveness. I think other key drivers is we are seeing less labour availability and an ageing population. So your traditional solutions are struggling to be maintained, and have been impacted by that, and we're looking for ways, alternatives around that, and or using what labour we have far more effectively. And the last real big one I see is the urbanisation within Australia. So we look at far less land being available and increasingly more expensive. So we have to solve our challenges. We have to solve ways of getting far more throughput, far more storage, and far more utilisation out of the land space that we've got. And that's really where I see the market going.
Lyd, what trends do you anticipate?
Yeah, I agree with David's comment. Yeah, due to the growth of the e-commerce and order fulfillment, which provide more higher service level, like a same-day delivery or next-day delivery. Yeah, of course, AMR can play a very important role for today in supply chain and logistic area. which I've mentioned about. Yeah, you can easily to add in additional robot to adapt your business growth with our very flexible system. You don't need to forecast like 3 years and then you buy it today. You can make it very flexible and a scalable system for your warehouse. Yeah.
George, what trends do you anticipate, and importantly, what should we do to prepare for them?
There's no doubt automation is going to increase in not just popularity, but availability. And that's mainly because of the technology. The technology from an AI standpoint in terms of computing power, the technology in terms of machine and sensing developments. The big thing that we are seeing though is the breaking down to smaller parcels and smaller movements of goods. So that trend in itself is going to require greater complexity, greater involvement in the supply chain, and certainly in the industrial truck market. That's one of the things that we're seeing driving change in terms of order picking, etc. Preparing for it as a customer is incredibly challenging, but as the other two panelists have mentioned, particularly David, it is really about staying informed, really trying to understand what is out there. And the simplest way of doing that is not only doing your own research, but organisations like ours and organisations like the others that are represented here are more than willing to showcase technology to those who are interested. So engaging with us and doing your own research directly or indirectly and learning what's either available or what's becoming available, that'll assist greatly.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your insights. I think our audience has learned a lot, and if nothing else, they've certainly got some questions which they'll be keen to get answers to. Obviously, there are other presentations in this CMAT virtual series which will have some of the answers. There's also the online exhibition, and of course CMAT will be back in some real form sometime in the future, so maybe we'll all get together then and see if there are more questions and even more answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.